The Americas are continents so vast in resources and natural wealth, many wonder why there was such a different development among the North American countries, namely the United States and Canada, to the rest of the subcontinent such as Mexico and Central America, the Caribbean, and South America. Although each American country is in different stages of development, we can safely say that the Americas have one of the worst continental inequalities. On one hand, we have the North American powers, which account for 82% of the two continents' wealth, with barely a third of the population. But towards Latin America, there are many serious and critical situations that requires more attention. Haiti and Venezuela hold the title for the poorest countries in America. Haiti is an exception because it is substantially less developed than the rest of its Latin American neighbors, and this is heavily contrasted with its direct neighbor, the Dominican Republic. Lately, serious social issues have hit the country. There has been a wave of unprecedented demonstrations, but these demonstrations are only the tip of the iceberg of a country that is structurally shattered. So why did Haiti turn out to be much poorer and underdeveloped than the rest of Latin America? What went wrong? And with the current people of Haiti demanding reforms, is this perhaps the beginning of a revolution? Let's begin. To understand Haiti's history, we need to go back to the time of the European conquest. When Christopher Columbus, quote-unquote, discovered America in 1492, he first arrived at a couple of islands in the Caribbean. It is presumed that this island was the first territory in the region claimed by the Spanish, and it is the same island that is currently shared by Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The Spaniards conquered the island and divided it into 5 territories. In 1501, the Spaniards began to import slave labor from Africa to carry out the colonization of America. They imported slaves due to the fact that the island's natives were practically extinct by then. When Spain arrived in Hispaniola, there were an estimated 250,000 natives, but the combination of diseases and mistreatment caused the population to shrink to just about 14,000 natives. More than 96% of the island's population had been exterminated. The Spanish island rose in importance as it was initially an essential island to undertake the colonization of the Americas, but over time, the importance of the island declined. Other conquered territories in the region were more profitable and/or interesting to the crown in Madrid. Besides that, Hispaniola became a favorite destination of the pirates of the Caribbean. Spanish, British, and Dutch pirates began to occupy the north and the west of the island. The Spanish crown had ordered all the inhabitants to move to Santo Domingo, east of the island, to avoid these pirates. In 1665, the French colonization began to show its effects on the island, and in the Treaty of 1697, Madrid ceded a third of the island to France, which today is known as Haiti. The French colony then became one of the richest of the West Indies and in the world due to its strategic placement, which imposed a strong French presence in the region. It was given the name the Pearl of the Antilles because of the immense wealth it possessed, since it was a port of entry and exit for most goods to and from Europe. Haiti was the second country of the Americas after the US to free itself from European powers. After defeating the Spanish and French in a long war that began in 1788, the Haitian Patriots declared their independence on the 1st of January, 1804. Haiti became the second nation on the continent to declare its emancipation. Therefore, Haiti was a torch of light and hope for the rest of the Latin American nations. Haiti would then occupy the rest of the Hispaniola island, invading what is now the Dominican Republic for more than 22 years. After being expelled by the Dominicans, they returned to Spain's possession after only obtaining their independence for 5 years. But interestingly, the Dominicans do not celebrate their independence from Spain, but from the Haitians. During more than 22 years of the Haitian occupation, after the departure of the French, it is believed that more than 6,000 French targets were executed by Haiti, as well as the persecution of the Spanish settlers that were still present to the east of the island. The western region of the island was much richer than the east, but over the decades, this began to reverse. Many years later, by around 1820, France returned to the Caribbean and threatened to invade Haiti if it doesn't pay a fine for its independence. The Haitian leader at the time, Jean-Pierre Boyer, who was also half French, had agreed to pay. The fine was around 150,000 francs, which represented between 10 to 15 times the income of the entire Haitian government. The ridiculous debt was almost impossible to pay for hundreds of years, and there were constant negotiations between the French and Haitian government. Many scholars agree that it was this debt that condemned Haiti to poverty. The impact was so massive that it took Haiti more than 180 years to pay back this debt, and the debt had only been paid by 1940. At the time, almost most other countries refused to recognize Haiti as a sovereign nation since they still had slaves at the time. The animosity of the Dominican Republic towards Haiti began since the Haitian invasion of the eastern side of the island. With the support of the Dominican Republic, it would have been possible for these two countries together to confront France. Unfortunately, this was not the case, and Haiti was virtually condemned to poverty by France. But in reality, it is a mistake to think that this debt was the only factor to Haiti's poverty. In fact, the Dominican Republic and Haiti were not so different at the beginning of the 1940s. The true transformation of the Dominican Republic into a Caribbean power only began in the 1950s and 60s. As you can see in this graph, the GDP per capita of the Dominican Republic was only $204 in 1960, and Haiti was at $70. The difference at this point in time was already more than double. But as you will see over time, the Dominican economy was enriched abruptly while its neighbor practically stalled. So in 2017, the Dominican Republic had a GDP per capita of $7,000, while Haiti barely had a GDP per capita of $700, the lowest GDP per capita in the Americas and one of the lowest worldwide. This basically means that the Dominican Republic became 10 times richer than Haiti in a period of only 70 years. Joaquin Balaguer, a Dominican politician, came to power in the Republic. Although he had a questionable past with Trujillo, who was a brutal Dominican dictator, he managed to redeem himself with these following actions. He had stimulated economic growth through various financial programs and developed infrastructure such as schools, hospitals, roads, and other public buildings throughout the country. Joaquin had also ordered the Dominican army to protect the trees so that they would not be cut down. It is speculated that this decision was influenced by the rapid rate of deforestation that occurs in Haiti. When he was not improving the Dominican Republic, Joaquin had many of his opponents imprisoned or murdered. But if we ignore his brutality and the tyrannical alliance that he had with Trujillo, Balaguer was undoubtedly a man who turned the Dominican economy around. Just next to Haiti, the already much poorer Dominican Republic was under a dictatorship. During this period, François Duvalier was not in a great state of health, and his son was about to take power. His son, Jean-Claude, maintained his father's Secret Service army and made Haiti his playground. Despite building more than 12,000 schools, the Haitian dictator used Haiti as a personal source of wealth. He controlled the banks and used the money in his free time. He also condoned the mass sellings of drugs throughout the country. He lived as a prince of the Caribbean, while 90% of the Haitian population lived in tragic poverty. So when he was removed from power through a coup, he left with most of the money he stole, leaving the Haitian economy weak and fragile. After the coup, Haiti was transformed through many violent protests, with a military regime from a dictatorship to a democracy. The first democratically elected president, Aristide, was overthrown by a group of soldiers only 7 months after having taken office. These soldiers were widely suspected to be US-backed, and it led to a dictatorship that would last for 3 years. Then, as the Cold War ended, the US decided to discontinue their support for the Haitian dictatorship, and Aristide would return to power in 1994. However, he was again overthrown in 2004 thanks to a military intervention carried out by the US, Canada, France, Brazil, and Chile due to the economic collapse of the country. After this, René Préval, who occupied the presidency between 1996 and 2001, would again assume power in 2006. He has been the only Haitian president that has finished his term and was considered to be a significant politician before his passing. Later, Michel Martelly would assume power, the only elected president to succeed another democratically elected president. His 5 years of presidency were disastrous, plagued with corruption and theft, along with the dissolutions of many social policies and the loss of women's rights. It must also be mentioned that his mandate was strongly marked by the 2010 Haiti earthquake, which devastated the country. An earthquake measuring 7.1 on the Richter scale killed more than 250,000 people. Officially, more than 365,000 people perished, and it left more than 2 million people homeless. It became one of the worst human tragedies in history. The earthquake had caused billions of dollars in damages, a 7% contraction of the country's GDP, and a 4% reduction of their population in just under a week. To this day, Haiti has not recovered from the devastating earthquake that took place 9 years ago. Even the governmental palace has not yet been rebuilt after 9 years. Haiti's terrible infrastructure had contributed to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. If an earthquake of 8.5 or greater would have occurred, it could have potentially decimated the country. The international community reacted quickly. Cuba sent hundreds of doctors who managed to tend to almost 40% of the victims just after the disaster. The US also intervened with more than 20,000 soldiers to give humanitarian aid, but governments in the region, such as Venezuela and Cuba, categorized this as an invasion. The combination of various economic, political, social, and even natural factors has placed Haiti as the poorest country in the Americas. And unlike Venezuela, which had the resources to succeed and was shattered by a tyrannical government, Haiti has been touched by a series of unfortunate situations that have condemned it to be the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Today, the Haitian government, led by Jovenel Moise, is under fire for the protests that have already left several dead and hundreds wounded. The population protests the poor social and economic conditions in the country. This socio-economic situation is not entirely the fault of the current administration, but instead has been dragging for decades due to bad governing, corruption, natural disasters, dictatorships, and military interventions. The current president Moise was elected with 55% of the vote, but only 18% of the population voted, which shows that 4 out of 5 Haitians refused to participate in the presidential elections. This would mean that President Moise had only received the votes of 9% of all registered voters, making him the president with the worst legitimacy in the Americas, just after Maduro in Venezuela. The protests against the president are the results of decades of economic exploitation, intervention, corruption, debts, nepotism, disasters, and lacks of investments in education and health. There is no magic recipe to transform Haiti overnight. There's not even a single culprit, but the culmination of several factors, several guilty countries, including Haiti itself. The situation in Haiti is certainly worrying. It is a country that has been the victim of bad circumstances, and we don't give it the aid it deserves when more than 85% of the population lives on less than $2 a day. The crisis in Venezuela should not blind us from a country that is also falling apart within the same region. So what do you think the international community should do to further aid Haiti to develop? Do you think that in this case, the French colonization was the main trigger for these circumstances, or was it the lack of investments made during the 20th century? So I hope you like this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content every week. See you next time.